the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Wilton, joined by Sergeant Wilton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
I was listening to somebody who posted a video and she says, this is the most valuable information that I've ever gotten from somebody at a bar. So then, you put your eyebrow up and you wonder what kind of valuable information this could be. And then she gets emotional. And the thing that she says is so profound because she was talking to a gentleman and venting about all of the tragic, terrible things that she's gone through in her life. And he turns to her and he puts his arm on the counter and he looks her straight in the eye and he says, keep talking about it if it keeps you here.
That is really profound. Like having someone step in and say, let me keep talking about it and keep moving forward from this, because if you're talking about it, it means that you're wanting to affect that change. It means you're trying to get it out.
I was raised in a very unique way, and I've been very, very fortunate to be as strong-willed as I am, but I know that does not come without effort. And my dad, growing up with 5 brothers and being the only girl, I had it a little bit more difficult than most little girls had growing up. I had a shovel in my hand, for example, growing up. And because of that, my dad really instilled in me a lot of values and virtues, and my mom balanced it out with the class and the maternal nurturing and all of that. And I think that I was very lucky to have the mindset instilled in me and then to be curious and interested about improving on that mindset as I got into adulthood. But there have been times that were much more difficult in my life than how they are now. Working under somebody else, for example, is something that I can't even... You look back, I don't have regrets, right? It's not regret. These are life lessons. And looking back, it blows my mind that I allowed myself to be in the toxic environment that I was in for as long as I was in. And I think a lot of us had that year that you almost quit. And in reflecting back on it, we're able to see all of the different lessons that we were taught.
Yeah, really looking at life in general. You're throwing curveballs. There's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. And you don't ever want to completely give up on anything. And it's taking those and it forms the person who you are today. Being able to use those battle scars per se and let them turn into, war stories. Being able to say, look, I got this from this, but I'm not going to put myself into that environment for this to happen to me again.
Yeah, and this happens a lot in the first responder community too, whether it's because of burnout, frustration with leadership, family pressures, the weight of trauma. I think that there's a point in time where a lot of us felt like quitting was the only option. And if we're honest with ourselves, I think that we can all look back and first of all, name the year that we almost quit, the one that was the most difficult. And a lot of the times, if you're in it right now, it might be impossible to see right now. But in retrospect, looking back, especially when you are able to compare it to all of the hardships and the journey that you've taken ever since, it makes it a lot easier, right? I said 2020. And hindsight is 2020. And to be able to see all of that from this viewpoint versus being in the midst of it.
Yeah, I think it's so much easier to focus on those negative aspects and those negative incidents instead of all the good that's happened in between, because it hits harder when it's such a negative thing that's happening towards us. And when positivity comes our way, it's you take it, you enjoy it, you appreciate it, and it's great, but we still focus on that negative thing because that hurts. I think physiologically it impacts us a lot more than that positive one does.
Yeah, I was talking to an officer about something very, very sensitive as it pertained to, I guess, relations between he and his wife, and something that happened and took place between the two of them. And this was like 18 years ago. And he was discussing it, and I was I was verbally and then silently proud in different ways about him having that conversation, because it's important to identify that season instead of burying it. And a lot of the times we might hear something like, oh, I don't want to talk about that, it's in the past. And we might not realize the level of inspiration that we may be providing to ourselves when we're able to reflect back on things, and then to other people who are listening in on what it is that we have to share in the triumphs and difficulties that we've been through.
Yeah, it's being able to learn from those mistakes, not only mistakes, but learn from those incidents to be able to move forward. And not only you're helping yourself in those instances, you could very well likely be helping others as well.
I don't know if this is just like the season of love, but in the past week, I have seen so many people who have been single for a very long time. And then I'm seeing their engagement posts, or I'm seeing their wedding photos. And it just makes me so happy, because knowing these people, I'm reflecting back to that difficult year that they almost gave up and how impossible it seemed for them. And maybe I've talked to them recently, maybe I haven't, but I can see things from, a much higher level in viewing what's going on in their world. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. In those dark times, I know that these people felt, because they've shared with me, that it was going to be impossible to get out of this. Like, maybe this is it for me, and it's never going to get better. And it's so cool. There was a gentleman that I used to work with a long time ago, and the entire time that I've known him, all that he's ever wanted was to be in a relationship, find that person. He's the type that definitely needs to be babied, so he needs a wife who's going to kind of help to give him that. And he's dated, and he's overweight, and he always thought like that was the reason why he would never find love. And just this morning, when I was doing like my P Instagram check, the first thing I see on Instagram is a picture of him kneeling down with his beautiful now fiance, with his carriage in the background. And what his caption was I never thought that this would happen, and I've been searching for this my entire life, and I finally found the love of my life. And so it does happen. It does get better, even though it might feel like it's difficult to be able to see that if you are in the midst of things.
Yeah, it's being able to, especially when you're in that dark spot, it's hard to see the future. It's hard to see yourself out of it, but hoping and pushing for that brighter future is something that, if you continue moving forward, like, it will come. Eventually it will be there.
Here's a perspective that just came to me. So working for the devil for as long as I did, in the midst of that, my mom got sick, and 9 months later she died. And so sometimes we might not realize how being in the thick of things is actually conditioning us for something very important, and how it's going to make us bounce back and rebound later on. And there's a strong possibility that the shit that I had to deal with for as long as I had to deal with that individual helped me to be able to be more resilient, to set more boundaries, to develop more purpose, and to be that supportive daughter that I needed to be for my mom while she was dying.
Yeah, it's everything correlates. It's all in how you perceive it and how you incorporate it into your life. If you want to sit there and play victim all the time, then you're going to continue to have that effect on you. But if you look at, in that situation, it's a hard situation, but if you really look at it and say, okay, well, this created this resilience for me to be able to stand above it and be able to work through any incident, like, it's a great mindset to have.
Yeah, and that too. So think about being in the midst of things, and you're hoping and wishing and wondering, how do I get out of this? And you're asking yourself, like, if there was a key and I were to grab that key and I were to unlock a door, what would that door say the entry into this is? I think that the power of being able to talk about something is actually the key that allows you to be able to get out of that year. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a year, right? We can have like the most terrible month of our entire life. Our best friends are dealing with the most terrible 2 years of their life right now. And so I think that talking about it is really that first key.
Yeah, being able to have that conversation, because one, you're going to get feedback from others if you're open to it. If not, then you're going to be able to find a resolution internally to start affecting that change.
And a lot of the times too, when we are going through it, it can be really hard to kind of define success. And we may need to redefine success when we are in the midst of burnout. And that could be something as simple as the survival being the success.
Yeah, using the analogy of playing a video game, you can't get past a level. Sometimes you hit that reset button and you start over. You're able to affect that change, and you're able to pass that level. You're able to push through.
Yeah, that actually happened to me, about a month ago, where I had to spend the entire day at the range. I was so sick that day. I was going to be behind an entire day, and I was stressed out about that. And I was literally fighting for my life just to be able to get to where I needed to get to and then to make it my way back home. So much to the extent that after driving around in the same area for the last 38 years, I actually got lost and took a wrong turn. Like, that's how bad that I felt. And it was literally just survival mode for me that day. And when I finally got home, I felt very accomplished. You fed me and I was able to go to bed early that night. And it was literally just making it through that day.
Yeah, it's you get through that day, and then that dynamic can completely shift.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.